We are going to jump into this caregiving curve topic. So I hope that you have enjoyed some of the content from this campaign as much as I have. I think it's a really timely topic, and we're going to dig into it more today. But for those of you that don't know me, but I think most of you do, I'm Linda Golik. I'm the Health and Wellbeing Consultant here at Emplify Health by Bellin. And our current campaign that we've been focusing on through the Lifesaver Wellbeing Program is this Caregiving Curve campaign. So this is kind of the last thing that we send out for content on this one. And then if you're on our list, you should have already received the content for our next campaign. So lots of fun things going on there. So, when we think about caregiving, the people that are in the caregiving situation, they are giving a lot of support to other people. So we're going to focus on how we take care of those caregivers, those folks that are giving of themselves. Well, they need support too. So how do we make sure that we support them? So let's talk about why we're talking about this topic. Well, quite frankly, 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. are family caregivers. That's a pretty high percentage. So these folks are juggling a lot. They're doing their caregiving. A lot of times there are jobs, they're parenting, and they're trying to take care of their own personal health as well, while they're also caring for somebody else. And of course, that emotional connection just kind of adds to the complexity of being that caregiver. So what do we mean by family caregiver per se? Well, it's a spouse, parent, child, sibling, friend providing unpaid care are those family caregivers. So that's what we're talking about today. And as much as kudos to the people that work in healthcare that do this as an occupation. We're focusing today on the people that are in the situation where they're connected to that family member, where it really is that unpaid caregiving layered upon all the other things that they have going on in their lives. And so why does this topic really matter? Well, because it actually is statistically the backbone of long-term care in the US. So as much as, yes, we have long-term care facilities and things like that, a lot of things end up falling on family members when it comes to the caregiving world. So I'm going to need your patience today. I'm going to play some videos. We got a couple YouTube videos today that I want to focus on. Sometimes the commercials pop up in between segments in the YouTube videos, and sometimes they don't. So we're going to cross our fingers that they don't. But if they do, I am not tied into any of these ads. I do not benefit from them. And so just wanted to let you all know, but that sometimes is just what happens when you grab stuff off of YouTube. But this is a really good video to kind of give us some good background information. It is done by a senior service. It is an ad for them, but they just have a really nice way of wrapping up really why unpaid caregivers are America's invisible workforce.
Over 53 million Americans provide unpaid care to a loved one. These caregivers are the silent backbone of our healthcare system, offering support without compensation, recognition, or respite. They are our mothers, siblings, and neighbors, part of a workforce too often overlooked. This is the story of America's invisible caregiver. At Caring Senior Service, we've worked alongside thousands of family caregivers across the country. We've seen firsthand the sacrifices they make and the systems that fail to support them. That's why we're telling because the more we understand the burden family caregivers bear, the closer we get to building a society that actually supports. According to AARP's 2023 Valuing the Invaluable report, family caregivers provided an estimated 36 billion hours of unpaid care. The estimated economic value, a staggering $600 billion, more than the entire U.S. out-of-pocket health expenditure in the same year. These caregivers are doing essential work, yet receive no paycheck, little public support, and few legal protections. The emotional and physical toll is immense. A 2024 AARP and S&P Global survey found that 70% of family caregivers struggle to balance job responsibilities with caregiving. Unpaid caregivers are more likely to experience stress-related health issues, sleep disruption, and mental health challenges. Many report feeling isolated, exhausted, and financially strained.
You've got to live your own life and take care of your own family, and at the same time, you're helping those that are in need of help. It can be, very difficult and quite a juggling act at times.
The burden isn't just time, it's health, money, and peace of mind. Women disproportionately carry the weight of unpaid care. Roughly 61% of unpaid caregivers are women. Many scale back their careers or leave the workforce entirely to care for aging parents or disabled spouses. The long-term impact is substantial. The U.S. Department of Labor estimates that mothers earn 15% less over their lifetimes due to caregiving responsibilities. This perpetuates economic inequality and erodes retirement security. Unpaid caregiving doesn't just affect individuals, it has broad economic consequences. It reduces labor force participation, especially among women in midlife. Businesses lose productivity. Health systems are strained as caregivers face burnout and their own medical issues.
Self-care is very important as we go care at others. If you don't self-care for yourself, you have nothing to give. But we see that in spouses, that instead of the spouse being the spouse is the caregiver. And then their health runs down, and now you have two people that need help.
The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, describes unpaid care as an invisible subsidy to the economy, one that saves billions in institutional care costs, yet remains unaccounted for in policy or funding priorities. There is no single fix, but we know what helps. Caregiving experts and advocates recommend paid family and medical leave nationwide, direct financial support or tax credits for family caregivers, expansion of Medicaid home and community-based services, more access to respite care and professional training, inclusion of family caregivers in healthcare planning.
You really just want to try to make this season of their life as happy as possible and as stress-free as possible. And so just by providing people that can come in and give them some joy and relief it's very rewarding. And then for the families as well, just giving them the break that they need.
Pilot programs across the country show these solutions work. But systemic change requires collective will and public awareness. Unpaid caregivers are the unsung heroes of our society. They give their time, energy, and hearts to help those who need them most. And yet, they remain invisible. It's time we see them, hear them, support them. Support family caregivers by advocating for fair policies, donating to caregiver organizations, or simply recognizing the caregivers in your own life. Behind every healthy, happy, independent senior is a village of support, and we're proud to be part of that village. Our services empower families by lightening the load, restoring balance, and giving family caregivers peace of mind. Because care shouldn't come at the cost of your own well-being. If you've ever felt the weight of caregiving, share your story below. You're not alone, and someone else might need to hear they're not either.
All right. So I like that video because even just from a employer perspective, giving some thought to this, this is definitely, if it's 53 million people in this country, obviously it's going to affect the employees in the workplace. And so just a consideration on maybe if you as an employer are visiting with us today, to really think about, what situations some of your employees may be in, and are there things that you can do from the whole organization perspective, to really support these folks. And that's part of what we're hoping to build for awareness today. So what are some of those common challenges then that we really hear from the caregiver side? Well, physical exhaustion, just from trying to do all those daily tasks, emotional strain from watching a loved one decline, The financial stress due to medical costs or reduced working hours. I thought it was interesting how that video pointed that out, that people will quit their jobs or lessen their jobs. So then that starts to be a financial situation for someone. And then just social isolation and loss of personal time. And we all know how important that dimension of social well-being is for everyone. Things we really want to be aware of in terms of just kind of watching in ourselves if we're caregiving, or watching in those around us that may be in a caregiving situation, are those signs of burnout. So what does that look like? Well, it can look like just constantly being worried and overwhelmed. It can come out in physical ways. So there may be changes in sleep or eating habits. And of course, that can go one way or another, right? It could be increased eating or decreased eating. It could be increased sleep or decreased sleep, anything kind of outside of the norm. The withdrawal from friends and activities, both because of a lack of time, but also because of just a lack of energy from having to juggle so many things. And then, of course, just the increased emotions. So there might be irritability or sadness, that someone may be dealing with. But what is the upside of caregiving? So, so far where we're seeing it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, it can be emotionally taxing. We worry about people getting burnout, but what's the good? What's the good side of it? And so we know that caregiving also strengthens bonds. It nurtures resilience. It creates new skills. We learn about things that we would not have otherwise known about when we're on this journey with a loved one. And then you can't change what you don't acknowledge. So recognizing that role invites support, celebration, and sustainable well-being. So part of the upside of caregiving is knowing that perhaps there are some limitations to what all of us can do in a day. And, we recognize that and try to get help for that. But 82% of caregivers say that caregiving does give them a sense of purpose, and it helps them feel good about themselves, because obviously somebody needs them. We as humans, we do want to help. We do want to be there for each other, and especially for the folks that we care about. So this is another great video that I want to share today, and I'll do it the other way that I did the other one. So hopefully y'all have sound. It's really interesting. This is a longer TED Talk, and this gentleman just talks about how sometimes you got to be selfish. So part of what we're going to learn today, if you're in a caregiving role, is sometimes it's okay to be selfish. So I'll share this video.
Everybody out there who can hear my voice is eventually going to care for a parent, a grandparent, or a loved one. Maybe you're that one that's going to eventually need care. The Association of Family Caregivers says that 1/3 of the population of the U.S. are already caregivers. Wow. Of those, roughly half of them are feeling depressed and hopeless on a regular basis. That's according to AARP. Many of them will become sicker than the ones they care for, eventually needing a caregiver of their own. Now, the worst part is 30% of these caregivers will actually die before their loved ones do. So says agingcare.com. If you're not a caregiver, just wait. You'll either become one or you'll need one. That's why now is the time to prepare and learn how to become a caregiver, not after tragedy strikes. You see, caregivers need to learn how to become selfish if they want to survive. I know this firsthand. Let me tell you why. My wife Charlene and I had a fairy tale, storybook, romance, courtship, and marriage for the first 21 years of our lives together. We were in love with each other so much, I just knew I had to marry this girl before she got away. We raised our 3 daughters. We got them all out of the house. We even got them married off. All 3 of them twice. I think you're only supposed to pay for the first marriage. We now have 7 grandchildren. And right about the time that my wife and I were supposed to be entering into the empty nest phase of life, where we go wherever we want, whenever we want, don't have to worry about leaving the kids in the house to wreck the place, and we have the freedom and the independence and the finances. One day, my wife complains to me about this bad headache that she had for 3 days. She called it the headache of her life that just wouldn't go away. One day, I realized that actually it was the 4th day. On that 4th day, that headache ceased being only a headache. By the time the ambulance arrived, my wife had suffered a massive stroke, and it left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on the right side. And in that moment, I was no longer just her husband. I was now her husband and her caregiver. The next 2 years was like a living hell for both of us. I had no idea what I was doing. I made every mistake in the book. Every mistake a caregiver could possibly make. It wasn't on my resume. I didn't even know what a caregiver was. However, I quickly learned that if I didn't become selfish, there was no way I was going to make this thing. I could have ruined my health. I might have even died before my wife would have. I quickly started realizing that I was experiencing the same problems that other caregivers experience. The first one is the guilt. I started feeling guilty all the time, but I quickly realized just because I was feeling guilt didn't mean that I necessarily deserved it. The next big problem that was plaguing me was this feeling that I was always never getting any help. But worse than that, it was because I couldn't even ask for help. I just had it in my mind, if I couldn't do this all by myself, I was a failure as a caregiver. That doesn't look good on a resume. It wasn't long before I started feeling these isolation feelings, like I was all alone in the world. My friends stopped calling, stopped coming by. I don't blame them because I was always negative and complaining when they did. Who wants to be around that? Wasn't long before I just started feeling hopeless and helpless. I remember screaming out, I don't even know who heard me, I can't take this anymore. I guess I was talking to God. I just went on in my pain because I didn't know what to do. But thank God that somebody invited me to a caregiver support group. I didn't know what that was, but I was desperate, so I went. And everything changed for me. I found people who were just like me, burned out caregivers. I found hope again. I remembered that the airlines tell us in the event of an emergency, put your mask on first before you help your loved one. What an amazing metaphor for all of life. I had to learn that if I didn't become selfish, there was no way I was going to survive this. And if I didn't survive, who was going to take care of Charlene? Let me talk about depression. With all the recent suicides in the news lately, we have to ask this question. If there is depression, is suicide far behind? Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, Robin Williams. These celebrities are no longer with us because they succumbed to that suicidal depression that affects caregivers as well. Yet we don't hear about how many caregivers died in the news, just celebrities. Another important reminder why caregivers need to learn to become selfish in order to survive this thing, so that their loved ones can continue to receive their care. Everybody asks me, so how's your wife doing? And I proudly say, well, because I've learned how to become selfish and put my needs first, she's doing great. She's advanced through the grief process, and she has embraced the new normal and reinvented herself and figured out that if she's still alive, God must still have a purpose for her here on this earth. Now, she still can't talk, but she can communicate non-verbally through Pictionary, charades, two games I hate, by the way, but I'm learning to love. She still can't walk, but we bought her a power chair, and she loves it. She gets to go wherever she wants now. That chair has been all over the world with me, and I have trouble keeping up with it. And anyone who meets her for the first time is thoroughly amazed at how she has a smile on her face all the time and joy in her heart. She's my hero. I am so proud of her. She's like a one-armed wallpaper hanger. And I just don't know how she does it. But because of Charlene, I can now help other caregivers stay alive and stay healthy. I want you to imagine for a moment what the world could look like if every new caregiver was already capable, ready, and healthy, and was easily able to maintain those qualities for as long as they cared for their loved one. If every caregiver can learn to become selfish in order to survive, and if they can really do that, they will become stronger, healthier, and happier, not only in their caregiving responsibilities, but in everything that they strive for in life.
What I really love about that story was that, like, by the end of it, he really is like talking about the upside and the things that he's seen and the amazement that he's seen, and you know, the getting through the grieving process and those types of things. So I just really enjoyed that video. So we'll do a couple more slides here. So then what are the strategies? You know, he talked about being selfish and, you know, needing to put himself first. And so what does that look like? Well, you know, first of all, we got to set some realistic expectations. None of us can do it all. As much as we think we can, we cannot. And it's just important to know that. Taking breaks, you know, even short moments of rest can make a big difference. You know, he talked about the caregiving group that he had become a part of and how helpful that was. So thinking about, you know, things like that. And staying connected, talking to friends, joining support groups, mindfulness activities. So whatever that may look like for you, that can be meditation, breathing, journaling, prayer, really keeping in mind, you know, those spiritual dimensions of well-being and attending to that. And then, of course, seek help. There is assistance. There are great things in our community that can be of assistance. So look into what you have in your community. And then what that really leads us to is the idea of building that support network. So it takes a village in a lot of different things in life. You know, they always talk about, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it also takes a village to take care of a loved one that needs help. So don't feel bad about that and think about who can be on your team for that. Asking for specific help, so specific things. And Mary Jo, I see you're on with us today. And Mary Jo has some great recommendations on this, and I'll tell you a little bit of her story in a minute. But asking for help and thinking about, you know, can this person help with rides, or can this person help with a household task, or would this person come and sit with my loved one while I go do whatever I need to do, thinking about that. There are some great community services, and I know probably most of you tuning in today are in Northeast Wisconsin, and we have an amazing couple of organizations. We have the AARP. We have the Aging and Disability Resource Center that is super, super active. Lots of resources there. We have Curative Connections. So there are things that can help. There are online things, of course, support groups and things like that if you can't find something local. And just a lot of faith-based organizations actually offer like respite care and some of those things for family caregivers. Another thing that can help in terms of caregiving, even if you're not in the situation yet, is kind of anticipating, like the gentleman, like Dave said in the video, if you're not a caregiver, you're either going to be one or you're going to become somebody who needs care. And it isn't always an elderly thing either. Life can happen. My husband's best friend had a stroke at the age of 40 that he recovered from fairly well, but it changed his brain forever. So, it's never too soon to start planning. So having documents in place, having emergency care plans in place, and then just helping with organizing medical appointments and things like that also can make things just a little bit smoother. And, we want to hang in there, and we want to look at the resilience that's also being built as we're in a caregiving situation. So celebrating those small wins, reflecting on the meaning and the purpose behind the caregiving, and then finding the joy in those moments that you're sharing with the loved one that you're taking care of. As I mentioned, there's some great organizations in our area. Wherever you live, do a Google search. You can see what's available in your area. Reach out, see what can maybe assist you if you're in a caregiving situation. And then just a plug for a couple of the podcasts. And Mary Jo is actually on the call with us. So Mary Jo was actually our lifesaver story for this particular topic. God bless Mary Jo. We put a survey out where we were looking to collect stories. And Mary Jo was willing to share her story. She happens to be one of our licensed behavioral health therapists here at Emplify by Bellin. But Mary Jo, she has a fantastic story, and she is on that podcast. So we're not going to have time to listen to it today in this session, but I would really encourage you to go out, search your platform, whatever your podcasting platform is. Type in Lifesaver or type in Bellin Health, and you should see this at the top of your list, Mary Jo's story. So again, thank you to Mary Jo for sharing that with us, because one of the things I really got from Mary Jo was just like this feeling of peace. She is really approaching her caregiving with a lot of grace, and I just felt at peace with her. So if you're in a caregiving situation, feeling a little frantic, you listen to this podcast, you're going to feel a lot better. I promise you. All right. So just to wrap us up, caregiving is a journey. It's not a one and done. You got to support yourself. You got to take care of yourself to really get through that journey. And I'm hoping after today, you're not alone. There are resources out there. Think about who you can reach out to. Think about people that probably do want to help you in your situation that maybe you just haven't even thought to ask. And that will wrap us up for today. There's my contact information if you want to get in touch with me. Again, this is being recorded, so if you would like it and you want to send it out, please feel free if you know somebody that could use it. And with that, I'll just stop. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put them in the chat. I'd love to hear from you.